Today, as promised, I'm going to talk a little bit about 5G in response to national strategy to secure 5G.
Most of the studies on cell phone radiation have been done on 2 and 3G technologies. So there really just isn't a lot of research out there on the effects of 5G millimeter wavelengths on health. So that's one issue. The other issue is millimeter wavelengths are very high frequency waves, and that means that they travel over very short distances and they can't penetrate through things like walls or trees.
Boom. Hey, yeah, this is Rashid Hill, and I am happy to be going live right here on a Triple Effect, as we do every week, is in full effect. Today, as promised, I'm going to talk a little bit about 5G in response to a lot of conversation that I've heard, I've seen. There's a lot of good and bad. Just like anything else, technology will bring out good things, and it brings out some challenging or questionable things that some people may look at depending on their personal perspective. So if you're one of those that maybe has some challenges with technology, communication, wireless, internet, access, things like this because of maybe your different provider or location, as you know, there's a lot of locations that we just can't get the right connectivity. And so that causes a problem as well. And so you may have kind of a negative feeling about new technologies coming out and what they're promising. Well, one thing that I want to talk about today is addressing the review of the recently published National Strategy to Secure 5G. The National Strategy to Secure 5G by President Trump. This was signed March 2020. I just got a copy of that the other day and started to review that. And I said, hey, this might be a good opportunity to go ahead and post this up so that people can get an idea about what the government, U.S. government anyway, their perspective is on rolling out 5G nationwide. So some people call 5G wireless communication, some call it mobile internet, advanced network technology, which is an acronym of ANT, which is weird, but it's actually whatever you want to call it. But I know that 5G is critical to what I call workonomics in 2020 and beyond. It is a solution to the fourth industrial revolution that we have been put right in the middle of. And I call the solution the fifth digital reaction. This is definitely for another talk, another day. But just to give you some context of why it's so important to me to have this conversation about 5G, to talk about and address things that affect the future of work. And as we are all pretty much in the situation that has placed us pretty much sheltered in place at home because of our global pandemic that has been presented in a day and time that we may not have anticipated something like this, I just want you to know that telework is questionable for a lot of companies and agencies, federal or non-federal. But all of a sudden, this pandemic kicked in. Now everybody has a telework that is capable of teleworking if you're not essential. And so prior to this, me studying the future of work, it was very interesting to me that the economists, as well as the human resource, human capital people that study these things, they were talking about the next level or the next phase of working, what I call workonomics, is gig economy, where you have people that do jobs for themselves, basically have no boss. And independent contractors, independent representatives, artists, being actual physical painting on canvas, or artists like disc jockeys or DJs, actual singers and rappers. These are artists as well. And poetry, spoken word. These are people that make money sometime, don't make money sometime. And in this environment, it's a lot more difficult. You have public speakers, something that I've aspired to do for a long time, and well on my way to doing something like this. But now that we're in an environment where shelter in place, and you have to pretty much stay at home, now we're confined to being behind the screen or in front of the screen. Depends on your perspective. But we're going to enjoy this time. We're going to make it to where we take advantage of what I call the fifth digital reaction to the fourth industrial revolution. What is 5G? And how do we position ourselves to navigate through all of this and win? 5G is essentially the next level or next generation of wireless communication. It's not just 10 times better, it's like 100 times faster and better than 4G. If you have 4G and you're happy, you will be ecstatic with 5G based upon the promises that are made by the technology. There are a lot of factors that go into 5G. So one of the things that you want to understand about 5G is that it cannot operate effectively if it's not a line of sight, or if there are not other parts in place for it to reach its destination. Just so you know, real quick, the technical aspect, any kind of electronic or electromagnetic wave, signal, connection, telecommunications, or otherwise, all of it has to bounce off of something in order to get to where you actually use it in a way that is useful to you. So if you want to make a phone call, if you want to download something, if you want to upload something, if you want to use your internet, if you want to do data, if you want to use video, if you want to use audio, all these things happen based on a signal. So when you hit a button, be it on your phone, be it on your computer, and you want something to happen, then a signal has to go out to an actual antenna somewhere. And that antenna speaks to the server, and the server relays that message back to whatever it is that you want to execute. Now, that may happen in 10 to 15 seconds now, but with 5G, it could happen in 0.1 or 0.11 or less seconds. So you're talking 10 to 15 seconds, and then it could be reduced down to about 0.01 to 0.1. It's not 0.1, it's 0.01 to 1. So 1 to 10 seconds, basically, you're looking at your activity, the buffering is gone. And I'll talk a little bit more about all of that later, but I don't want to go technical. I just want to give you a review on the national strategies to secure 5G by President Trump. So what is 5G used for? High level, 5G can be used to amplify the presentation or the identification of self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, robotics, process automation, blockchain, the Internet of Things, AR, VR, these type of things. Some would say that 5G, out of all of those technologies mentioned, they've been around forever. I mean, AI has been, that's, Star Trek back in the good old days. The Lost Worlds, Star Wars, Star Trek, all this kind of stuff, right? But some would say that 5G, the advent of 5G, is the missing link in all of the emerging technology execution. So yes, we have 5G, we have technology, we have all of these different types of communication and connection technologies, but 5G was the missing link to really set it off. And now we're taking it from 10 times better to 100 times better. So there's a lot of talk from the government side as well as citizen side concerning the effects and or benefits of 5G. You may have been wondering why am I, Rashid Hill, in front of you speaking on the national strategy to secure 5G, a review of the president's publication on 5G. Well, as I see so many articles and write-ups and posts concerning the risks and benefits of this technology, I am very certain that there are benefits and risks to anything, because I really, really get into technology, and like I said, blockchain is probably one of the most incredible studies that I really dove into, but it kind of kicked off kind of a perpetual interest in emerging technologies like IoT and 5G and AR and VR, these type of things. And process automation is another one that I really, really thought was it's pretty interesting. A lot of it's not that difficult to understand, to tell you the truth. So anyway, as I see all these articles and write-ups, concerning the risks and benefits of this technology, and I'm certain there are so many people that have no idea about the validity of the articles that they're reading and the motives behind the authors of those stories and news reports. So, as I always like to do, let's do some research and let's see if we can impart what is real versus what is false, and basically what makes sense based on the truth of the technology that we're talking about. So myself, little background, a disclaimer, so you know, one, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a technical advisor. I'm not a 5G guru. I'm none of those things. So don't take my word and go out there and say, I'm going to put my hand on the side of an antenna that looks like a MIMO antenna, or one of those Verizon or Samsung or Qualcomm 5G servers, and say, hey, he said so. No, it doesn't work that way. Disclaimer, it's not my place. It's not what I do. I'm an enthusiast. I love technology, and I want people to get the right information. So I decided that I would come on here and talk a little bit about some of these things, but I really wanted to focus on reviewing the president's publication here about 5G. But I currently work for the Department of Defense out here in San Diego, and I represent my organization on the DoD CIO, or Chief Information Office, 5G functional team or working group. I do not plan to divulge any secrets concerning where the Navy or any other agencies are in respect to testing and rolling out 5G. So definitely not going to do that. So if you thought that was going to happen, hey, sorry, ain't got nothing to play. But anyway, I can tell you that the military has been way out ahead studying and testing AI, blockchain, RPA, 5G, and the like for some time. One of the agencies literally has a facility dedicated to the study of AI. I'm talking built from the ground up, and been doing that for some time. And also autonomous vehicles, they've been studying that for a very long time. So this is not a new adventure for the DoD, but it is just headlines for so many out there. And so I want to be the one to provide you with some information versus your misinformation. So what is this all about? So the President of the United States has signed off on this national strategy to secure 5G this March 2020. So he has a publication that he signed off on. It's a national strategy to secure 5G. That was signed March 2020. Funny how he says secure 5G. And that I kept reading that saying, wow, why is he using the term secure as take control of, as if it's his own? It's very interesting. So 5G, as in take the lead and have the rest of the like-minded governments follow suit. This is his way of securing, whereas if it's his idea. And if you've listened to President Trump, which I think everybody in the world has, you kind of understand what I'm saying. Even though there's this thing called the Prague, depending on how you want to pronounce Prague or Prague, 5G security conference that happened recently, they have the 5G Prague proposals that already have security guidance in place. They have outlined specific standards and guidelines that facilitated international agreements on securing 5G across the globe. Nope, Trump has to secure or take control of global 5G and tell everyone else who to work with, how to conduct cybersecurity in their own country. This is traditional Trump. No question, no surprise. Of course, that's what he wants to do. But it's fascinating, but it is the reality that we're in. So what does the national strategy talk about? We're going to actually jump right in, and I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what I'm really getting into here. Let me do this so you can see what's going on. All right, we have, boom. I think we are good to go at this point. All right, let's see. The national strategy to secure 5G of the United States of America. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, right? So in the national strategy, the first thing that comes to the introduction. So how do we get here, right? So the United States National Cyber Strategy states that the administration will facilitate the accelerated development and rollout of next generation telecommunications and information communications infrastructure here in the U.S., while using the buying power of the federal government to incentivize the move forward or towards more secure supply chains. Remember that piece. The United States government will work with the private sector to facilitate the evolution and security of 5G, examine technological and spectrum-based solutions, and lay the groundwork for innovation beyond next generation advancements. Beyond next generation advancements. So if we're talking about 5G, then part of that publication is saying next generation beyond 5G. Capture that for a moment. We know that 5G is happening, but they're preparing for something else. Interesting, isn't it? Three things that highlighted within that particular cybersecurity policy. The three things that I want to address: supply chains and procurement, private sector for rollout and security, and really, what are we trying to solve? Why is 5G so important? Why does the president have to secure 5G and want to be the leader of this particular technology? Well, let's talk about supply chains. The supply chains and procurement relate to the hard line that POTUS, or the President of the United States, has against China and their domination of tech, plus 5G. In order to slow down the wireless connectivity race, as we all know, Trump levied import-export taxes on China goods and banned Huawei products, especially if they were used as part of a defense system right here in the U.S. or under any U.S. territory. So now with the pullout of current equipment, I'm talking wherever Huawei's equipment was set, or ZTE's equipment was installed, if it's a commercial company or if it's a defense company, wherever it was installed, they were ordered to pull out that equipment, servers, etc. Right? So now that's happening. Somebody has to be in line to fill that void, to replace that equipment in order for the President of the United States to secure 5G going into the future. So I know a couple of leaders, contractors, vendors, companies that are leading 5G outside of China, but are here to fill that void. I had a conversation with those same people maybe about a month ago at a conference. And it was a very interesting conversation when I found out that, oh, wait a minute, you are part of the solution that President Trump was talking about. So there are a couple of companies that we are actually doing 5G tests for logistics and AI and VR right here in San Diego. So it's very interesting. So what companies are set up to provide the infrastructure to run 5G in the US and get the go-ahead from the FCC to acquire the proper amount of spectrum space to do that, or bandwidth? Basically, spectrum is bandwidth. Right now, I'll give you a few. Qualcomm is in position, Nokia is in position, Ericsson's in position, Samsung's in position. And there are, like I said, there's many of us, and there's a list that is approved to supply the U.S. government as prime partners. And 2 out of those 4 prime partners that are already in position, they have contracts all over the world. And yes, there are great investment opportunities as well. So the next piece of that particular policy on cybersecurity talks about private sector and rollout and security. So when it says private sector and security of 5G, one of the issues here is to me what is so controversial in the news and other media today. Many citizen reporters are going as far as physically attacking company property, the towers that are set up in their areas, to set up to facilitate wireless internet connectivity. They are actually like taking bulldozers and running over these particular towers because they feel like the towers are invading the area. They're dangerous. They need to be out. I mean, it's like, it's really weird, but it's okay. I mean, everybody has their own way of looking at these things. And so I don't want to get into that. But many of the towers, right? Because you have to have new infrastructure, towers, they have large towers, they have small towers, depending on the density of the area. So if I'm going to be out in rural areas and I'm traveling long distances as far as telecommunications, then I need to have the big towers, right? And those big towers, then I can cover more area. I can go further out and I can get more range out of the bigger towers. With that being said, if I'm in the city or in a dense area where there's a lot of population, there's buildings, then I need smaller towers where I can put on top of maybe a building or in a city center or something like this in order to get connectivity in those areas. So small and large, these towers will have to be either leased or stood up in order to get the best connections for 5G to deliver as promised. All spectrum does not work the same. So you have, and I'll show, I have to find the video, but I'll show that to you later. But all spectrum is not the same. So you have low band, you have mid band or medium band, and then you have millimeter wave. And those are the fastest as far as connectivity goes. But the spectrum, which is regulated by the FCC in what they call a FAST Plan, the cost of having a license is outrageous in the first place. So you're looking at your AT&Ts, your Verizon, your T-Mobile. And as we know, T-Mobile and Verizon, AT&T, they all had these plans that they say, hey, we're rolling out in 2019. And so 2020 come around and some of them have certain areas that they're covered and some actually have a higher speed. And so to understand, if you have a T-Mobile plan, your phone has to be 5G enabled and active. Samsung creates the actual phone and Qualcomm creates the actual chip. And these chips go inside either enabled or deactivated. And so that's a whole nother technical issue, but those are things that are very important because when you have a phone and you're trying to get connectivity, you're trying to figure out, well, why don't I have connectivity? Or you're trying to figure out, what's going on with my connection? Well, you may be doing okay, but at the end of the day, right? Hold on, let me see my seat.